1 week on from the conclusion of Euro 2024, let's have a look back over the tournament. Was it a poor tournament overall? I think Spain winning saved it to an extent. Nobody can deny they were the best team overall, and they came through a much tougher path than England. But let's take a look at the teams, group by group. Starting at Group A, we had the hosts Germany, who was somewhat revived by new manager Julian Nagelsmann, and certainly better than they've been in previous tournaments. They looked deadly in the opening game, but Scotland were dreadful. Hungary were also poor at this tournament. A lacklustre performance against the Swiss, then defeat to Germany effectively put them out by the time they faced the Scots, but that didn't stop them dragging Scotland down with them. I heard a lot of people say Switzerland were very good ahead of their quarter-final with England, but in reality they weren't. Germany were already through when they held them to a 1-1 draw. Italy were woeful despite their last 16 place, and let's not forget they couldn't beat Scotland. Germany were knocked out by eventual winners Spain, but although they've improved a lot, they've still got a long way to go. So to summarise Group A, an improved Germany who were unlucky to run into Spain in the quarter-finals, a woeful Scotland, below par Hungary, and an organised Switzerland who didn't really need to do much to make the last 16, or quarter-finals in fact. Group B looked like one of the more difficult groups, but Spain cruised through without conceding a single goal. They blew away Croatia in matchday 1, finally broke down a stubborn Italy in match 2, and by the time they played Albania, the group was won. Holders Italy had the worst possible start to their title defence. They let in a goal after 23 seconds against Albania. Though they did come back to win, that was their only win in the whole tournament. Croatia were poor as well. Draws with Italy and Albania saw them drop out as one of the worst placed thirds. Albania's draw with Croatia was their only point, but I actually think they did themselves proud. So in Group B, Spain were the obvious standouts, beating Georgia, Germany, France, then England on their way to glory. Albania played really well, considering no one gave them a chance in this group. Italy were poor, probably the worst version of Italy I've ever seen. Yes, even worse than the team who failed to qualify for the last World Cup. If you don't believe me, watch their defeat to Switzerland. Croatia just looked lethargic, and they're a team in transition. I don't think we'll be seeing them in the late stages of another tournament for a while. But what about England? Well, let's have a look at their group. England had the usual hype. Our squad's the best, this is our year, etc. But they didn't perform at all. An early goal against Serbia in match 1 turned out to be a winner, and that was the only winning goal in that group. Yes, the entire group. Every other game ended up drawn. Was this the worst group in the history of the Euros? I think so. And if you disagree, you're going to need to dig deep to find me an example. Feel free to post that worst group in the comments. And yet England were the eventual runners-up. Well, how did that happen? A favourable path helped, and a bit, or should I say a lot of luck. It took a 96th minute equaliser to save them in that last 16 against Slovakia, then a perfect penalty shootout in the quarter-finals against the Swiss. Then a so-called match-fixing referee gave them a little bit of help against the Dutch in what was otherwise their best performance in the entire tournament, before they were outclassed by Spain. I don't think the England squad were anywhere near as good as they were hyped up to be, and in any other tournament, these performances get you nowhere near a final. But this is the point of my video. Serbia only managed 1 goal, the late equaliser against Slovenia, who, like Denmark, drew all 3 games. The Serbs went out. Denmark and Slovenia swiftly followed, though Slovenia did take Portugal to penalties. By contrast, Group D was probably the most exciting group to watch. Again, the football wasn't that much better, but it had the best quality sides overall, at least in terms of their world rankings. France were dreadful. They beat Austria 1-0 due to an own goal on matchday 1, then stumbled to draws with the Netherlands and Poland. Austria recovered from their loss to France with impressive wins over Poland and the Netherlands to somehow win Group D. Poland were awful, yet somehow drew with pre-tournament favourites France, while the Dutch limped through in third. Austria looked promising, but fell out of the tournament in the last 16 against Turkey, which was surprising given the quality of opponents they faced in the group. Maybe they just couldn't cope with being favourites. France and the Netherlands both eventually crashed out in the semi-finals. France played probably their best football of the tournament against Spain, but they were too good. Netherlands were undone by a late Ollie Watkins goal. France reached the semi-finals despite being well below their usual standards, while the Dutch benefit from the weaker side of the draw. France were probably the tournament's biggest disappointments. Group E, 1-1, drawn 1, lost 1 for every team. I've never seen a group play out like that ever, so you'd think they were all evenly matched sides. But they weren't. Extremely talented Belgium landed probably the weakest group of the tournament, featuring Romania, Slovakia and Ukraine, yet started off with defeat to Slovakia. Romania demolished Ukraine in the other matchday 1 encounter. Was that the best ever Romanian performance at the Euros? Let me know in the comments. Belgium and Ukraine recovered by both winning match 2, then both games of matchday 3 ended up drawn. Despite Lukaku doing his best, his goals kept getting disallowed. So Romania won the group, Belgium second, and Slovakia end up third. Ukraine out despite getting 4 points. Is it fair to say Group E was poor? I think it's fair to say Belgium were poor, extremely poor in fact. The other 3 teams gave it a decent go, they just lacked the ability that some of the other teams had. Belgium went out in the round of 16 to France, Romania were hammered by the Netherlands, and Slovakia were so close to putting England out. The fact all of this group were eliminated by the last 16 tells you everything you need to know about the standard of its teams. Group F was weird. Portugal won their first 2 games with some of the most bizarre goals of the tournament, then lost to Georgia, who were one of the few teams who impressed me. Turkey were incredibly well supported in Germany, and despite a heavy defeat to Portugal, they won their other 2 matches to come second in the group. Georgia stunned Portugal on matchday 3 to qualify for the knockout rounds of their first ever major tournament. They have really done themselves proud. They didn't sit back either, they set up to attack teams, but that was never going to work against Spain. Fair play to them for giving it a go. Czech Republic didn't turn up really, a draw with Georgia was their only point. But let's talk about Portugal, one of the pre-tournament favourites. Bizarre own goals in both of their wins, followed by a 2-0 loss to Georgia. Then they beat Slovenia on penalties after a 0-0 draw, before another 0-0 draw with France saw them exit at the quarter-final stage on penalties. They have an exceptional squad, so why were they so bad? Many people think Ronaldo's the problem and that he should be dropped, but I think that's harsh. I guess we'll find out in the next few tournaments after he retires from international football. Turkey looked impressive in their last 16 win against Austria, then again when they played the Dutch in the quarterfinals, but were undone by 2 late goals. Georgia took the lead against Spain, but eventually lost 4-1. That was a bit too much to ask, really, wasn't it? So to summarise, for me, it was a really poor tournament. Maybe the players are exhausted, maybe the top talents are more spread out around Europe than in previous years. Or maybe these tournaments just don't have as much importance as club football anymore. Spain stood out and rightly won the tournament. Germany were decent by their own dire recent standards, and Austria looked good until the knockout rounds. Turkey played some good football, and Georgia likely performed best compared to everyone else's expectations. By comparison, France, Italy, England, Netherlands, Croatia, Denmark, Belgium and Portugal were all poor. Why do you think that was? Let me know in the comments. I made a video during Euro 2024 about the dropping standard of international football. Please go check that out if you're interested. Let me know what you thought of the tournament, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you're enjoying my videos so far. I'm going to be predicting the upcoming Premier League and Championship seasons as well, so stay updated for those, as well as playing them through on FC25 when it comes out at the end of September. I'm looking forward to that one.